The IndiGo pilot who flew the stand-up comic Kunal Kamra has now written to the airline's management, it seems. Vishnu Shom joins us with more details about that. Vishnu, what are we hearing?
Well, it's a very significant story that we've been tracking for the last several hours. And the point over here is that the pilot of the aircraft, who we are not naming, we've been able to access a letter that the IndiGo pilot who flew Kunal Kamra, who got into this not an altercation, he heckled the television journalist Arnab Goswami. The pilot has written to the management of IndiGo saying that he objects to the manner in which Kunal Kamra, the comedian, was banned. So I'm just going to go through a couple of quotes of the pilot to his management. He says, Mr. Kamra's behavior, while unsavory, was not qualifying of a level 1 unruly passenger. That's the lowest category, which calls for a 3-month ban. But in this case, the airline went and banned him without following any process for a period of 6 months. Nobody knows why that's taken place in quite that manner, when the civil aviation rules in the country categorically say a committee needs to be formed, a process needs to be followed. There is a way in which anybody who's going to be punished can appeal to a higher appellate body or even go to a court. The airline evidently didn't wait for any of this. They slapped a 6-month ban on Kunal Kamra, and the pilot of the aircraft says, how has that happened? How has that taken place at all? Why? The pilot says, we as pilots can all attest to incidents similar and or worse in nature that were not deemed unruly. The pilot says, I was disheartened to learn that my airline has taken action in this case solely on the basis of social media posts. Am I to understand that the bar for interpretation of a disruptive passenger is lower or different when it comes to high-profile cases? Now, this is perhaps the most important statement, because while the airline went and banned Kunal Kamra and SpiceJet followed suit, as did Air India and Go Air, there has been no action, for example, against MPs like Sadhvi Pragya, who delayed the departure of a SpiceJet aircraft when she initially refused to vacate an emergency row seat, even though she was a wheelchair-bound passenger. Or what happened earlier on when a Shiv Sena MP slapped an Air India staffer. That Shiv Sena MP got a ban of 14 days for physical assault. Sadhvi Pragya got no punishment at all, whereas this man was told he cannot fly for 6 months. Now, we want to be very clear that his behavior was unacceptable, and the pilot actually mentions that as well. And so we are not trying to justify his behavior, we're just trying to demonstrate how there was no process which was followed. So the pilot, again, I'll read that important case, that important point. Am I to understand that the bar for interpretation of a disruptive passenger is lower or different when it comes to high-profile cases? And what I can share with you now are a few exclusive details of what DGCA sources are telling NDTV. A senior source in the Directorate General of Civil Aviation has told me that IndiGo's decision to ban Kamra for a period of 6 months, quote unquote, is a nullity. In other words, it's null. It doesn't happen. You can't just go and ban somebody. Secondly, they are officially waiting for the pilot's letter. They are aware of the fact that this letter is circulating. And thirdly, there could be action against the airline if the authentic account of the pilot is absent. So this is what the aviation watchdog is actually looking at very, very closely. Ankita.